So this is what I do for cleaning bottles. I do reuse bottles. You got to get the label off of an old bottle. I recommend soaking it in warm water, and you can use a little X-Acto knife or this straight edge razor and just scrape it off after it's been loosened with warm water and all. Once you get that straightened out, you know, kind of a clean. Most pre-bought like wines don't have a lot of sediment. You rinse them out after you buy and use and drink the wine, and you can just store them until you're ready to clean them and use them. I would recommend a good detergent and a brush. If you've got sediment down here, you know, get that bottle brush, long one, get it in there and do your work with some soapy solution. And if you really want to go an extra step, you can buy a good cleaner. This is called PBW. They use a lot in breweries and things. I do a soak with this after I've got a good clean looking bottle. I think it's important to, you know, really go the extra mile. So 1 tablespoon of this in a gallon of water. It comes out pretty clear. You know, it's strong. It's a little caustic, so be careful. Don't smell it close. And then this is a solution that you can use to soak bottles. Once you get, you know, your solution in a gallon, just take your gallon and pour it into your jars. Fill them to the top. And then once you've got all of your jars filled, let them sit for 20-30 minutes, and this solution will make sure the inside is really clean. And after that, we're going to go to the next step, which will be making sure that these jars are sterilized, or at least sanitized should be the right word. Okay, after using the PBW cleaner to clean and soak the insides of these bottles, I've actually just then emptied them. It's okay to let it go down the sink. And the next step in preparing these bottles for filling is to use a sanitizer. I use Star San. It is concentrated in this, and you want to mix it in a gallon. I'm actually using 1.5 gallons. I have a half-gallon jug back here. So I put 1 gallon of water and mix the appropriate amount in the gallon, and then you can fill the bottles. Use a funnel, and you'll notice with Star San that you will get foaming, and you'll see a little color change in the water. It's not clear, and the foaming on top. The foaming is not a problem, but when you fill the bottles, you will get foam in the top of the bottles. So it can foam up pretty good. So as it foams, I recommend going back and slowly pouring water in, or sanitizing in, and you can slowly work the volume of the liquid all the way up to the top. So I like to make sure that the liquid comes all the way to the top and the foam is pushed out. So once I fill all these jars with the sanitizing solution, I will let them sit. You know, it says you can do it for a couple minutes, you know, half an hour or whatever. Allow the solution to work to sanitize this. And then I do this in my little sink here, and I put a stopper in the sink so that when I empty these out into the sink, I retain that solution, because I'm going to put my my siphon hose and my bottling. This is a bottling wand that helps you to bottle. So these are going to go in the sanitizer after I empty these out. So emptying the bottles, and then I have a self-made kind of a rack here to stand the bottles up and let them drain and dry a little bit. And then I'll have this sink full of sanitizing solution to use for my other items to bottle with. Okay, so I'm going to work on that, and then the next stage we're going to talk about actually fining, which is back sweetening. No, I'm sorry, fining is clarifying. The final stage in preparing the mead before bottling will be back sweetening, and I'll talk to you. So here is my bottling setup. I've emptied the sanitizer solution from these jars into the sink with a stopper. So I've collected the sanitizer, and I have my siphoning hose, an auto siphon, and a bottling wand getting sanitized. I've already sanitized a test cylinder with my hydrometer, and I sanitized a baster syringe. I use these all the time, and a stir rod, and I'm basically set up to siphon from a higher level to a lower level on this chair down here. And before I do any bottling, I want to do one last thing. I mentioned before I needed to back sweeten this. In the process of making this, the yeast did a very good job. It fermented and ate practically all the sugars. The final specific gravity is 0.998, which is a little under the 1. And I think there's still a little bit of sugar in there, but not much detectable, nothing detectable to the taste. So when racking this the second time, I added some potassium sorbate to stop the yeast, and now I can back sweeten this. My intention is to bring the sweetness up a little bit. It gives it a little better flavor. And in that choice of back sweetening, I'd like to mention that I'm choosing to use just priming sugar. This sugar is used by beer enthusiasts to carbonate their beer, but it's dextrose from what I read. It's made from corn starch, and it's reduced to just the sugar, powdered sugar, and I take that powdered sugar and I use some plain old distilled water, and I'll put it in a small saucepan with the amount of powdered sugar that I want to add to this 1 gallon batch. My choice in doing this is because I want a sugar that's very clean, pure. It's not really going to add any off flavors or anything. My choice in making meads is to make them a little bit more like wine, and I want to get maybe 1 or 2% residual sugars. That's enough for a slight taste of sugar, not much. I don't want a sweet tasting. So you can go online and you can Google this and you can figure out what you want to do. I chose the priming sugar, and I needed 80 grams liquefied with the distilled water, warmed it up, and this 80 grams, when added to the solution, should raise my specific gravity from 0.998 up to about 1.006. And that's enough to represent 1 to 2% residual sugar, which is where I want to be. It took a lot to figure that out for me. I've actually tested it once on another batch and it turned out fine. So I'm going to go with the same on this batch of strawberry rhubarb. And basically it just requires, oh, and let me mention, when I've been racking this off, I've racked it multiple times so there's no sediment. And this makes it easier. You'll see the volume in the gallon jar actually reduces, because when I rack off and you leave some bottom sediment, you don't get it all. So after racking 3 and 4 times, I have a reduced volume in the gallon jar, which is good for back sweetening, and no settlement when I bottle. Okay, so just adding this is pretty simple. All right, and I'm going to use this stirring wand. Now, this has been sanitized. Okay, so that is my back sweetening, and I'm going to verify. Now, when I test the specific gravity, try to make sure there's no bubbles, and that you know, the hydrometer is free inside the cylinder, floating in the middle. And then take a good look at it. And it turned out exactly as I suspected. After having done it once, the exact amount of 80 grams raised the specific gravity from 0.998 up to 1.006. So this is good. If you so choose, you can taste it. And I have, and it's desirable just to verify. But I can tell you that this taste now, when it's warm, is not the same as when you, say, bottle it and refrigerate it and then reopen it. It'll be different. The refrigeration cools it down. Most wines and meads, you can drink it, 40, 50 degrees, and it's a little better than warm room temperature at 70 degrees. And it may even taste a little sweeter at that cooler temperature. So I'm not going to taste it right now because I know where I am. All right, so I will put this back in and and then we'll proceed to bottling. Okay, so now we're getting to the actual bottling process. Here's my siphoning hose, my auto siphon, and a gallon will need 5 jars or 5 bottles. These are your standard 750 milliliter bottles for a gallon. And then the bottling wand, which has this valve on the end, when you push it down to the bottom of the jar of the bottle, it'll release the liquid. Now, it's a little trick to get this hooked up, but we'll show you how that works. All right. When I set up the gallon jug, I actually took a little couple of blocks and leaned it over. I want the tip of this to be in the corner, not in the middle. Well, it's not a corner, but on the side. Okay. Going to all right, so the auto siphon is set up. On the other end of this siphoning tube, I have a little clamp valve. If I get this started, I'm going to shut it off with the clamp valve, and I'll be able to then connect it to the bottling wand. All right, so I'm going to get it started right now. Putting this end into a bottle. Okay, so the siphon is started, and this is the bottling wand. All right, I've shut it off here with the valve. Let's connect that up. All right, and we'll just open the valve, and now we're using the bottling wand. So when we push it down, it will allow the siphon to work. Let's see if that's a little viewable. You can see it working when you push down, filling the bottle. And we're going to fill this bottle up to the very top with the siphoning wand in it. I have to put it down lower, it won't siphon. Okay, so again, with the siphoning wand in there, you can fill it to the very top. And when you pull the siphoning wand out, the level of the stuff will be where you want it to be. All right, so there's the first bottle. And of course the siphoning wand is shutting off the flow, and then going to the second bottle, etc., until we fill all 5 bottles and the jar is empty. Okay, and now after bottling, we come to this final stage of putting corks in the bottle. I like to use these 9 by 1 3/4 size. Corks come in different sizes. These are fairly standard for wine bottles like these. And just to give you, I do put the corks in a jar of sanitizer. All right, so we'll dry these corks off just a little bit. I mean, they don't have to be perfectly dry. The sanitizer doesn't affect the corking process. But you know they're clean when they go in. All right, and through this whole process, I feel comfortable with my hands being a little damp in this sanitizer solution to keep everything clean. And all right, so I have tried like a hand corking machine. They don't work very well. I ended up investing in a floor model. You'll see these at the brewer shops. Sits on the floor, has a nice long handle plunger. This is going to be interesting to demonstrate. Let me try to get a lower view. So this machine here, you can sort of put your foot on it. And what you want to do is clean this upper area very well. Use a sanitizer towel. The bottom down here will push down. It's spring loaded. So push it down and load your bottle. Take a cork. If it's got an up and a down, you might want to watch which way you put it in. I like to make sure I put in the cork. If it looks like it has any kind of a indentation on one end, I will put that in the bottle. So for this machine, load the cork, compress the cork, and shove it in. And there you have it. A nice, clean installed cork in a nice bottle of strawberry rhubarb mead. All right, and if you want to really go to the next level, I would recommend that you can even do what I do. I buy some laser label sheets, and I make up a little label design and I print it out. Now these are for my sizer. Fairly simple design, but I want it to represent, you know, what it is. I'll make one of these up with apple strawberry mead, and it fits nicely on the label. It looks nice, presentable as a gift or just to consume with your friends. All right, so that wraps it up for strawberry rhubarb mead. I hope you're going to try to work through this process. I know it's long, I know it's detailed, I know it's complicated. That's why I kind of broke it up into 5 different segments. And I think when you get into this kind of a hobby, you have to look at it like maybe when I retired. But it's fun, and it does produce a very good product when you know what you're doing.